She was always there, quiet, present. A name on the roster, a body on the court, a teammate on the bench. She showed up early, stayed late, never complained. But nobody expected much from her. Not the coaches, not the critics, and sometimes, not even her own teammates. People called her steady, reliable, coachable. Words that sound like compliments but often meant one thing. She wasn't a star. Not fast enough, not flashy enough, not powerful enough. She did her job and did it fine, but that was it. Nothing special. She heard it all growing up. She's not bad, just not stand out. She's solid. That's about it. Even in high school, when other girls were getting recruited and showing up in local sports articles, she was overlooked. She was in the starting lineup, sure, but barely noticed. Her name was never the one shouted from the stands. She'd play, she'd contribute, then she'd quietly walk off the court while someone else got the spotlight. She kept working anyway, not because she thought the spotlight would come, but because she loved the game. She loved the sound of the ball hitting the court, the rhythm of passes, the feeling of the game flowing the right way. It made her feel alive in a way nothing else did. Still, it stung. It stung when a reporter came to cover the team and interviewed 3 other players, but skipped her completely. It stung when she saw highlight reels with plays she had started none, but only the finishers were shown, and it stung most of all when she overheard a scout at a tournament say she's a safe pick. But no one builds a team around safe. She didn't cry about it. That wasn't her style. She just nodded to herself and kept practicing. Every missed chance, every quiet bench moment, every time someone called her average, it added fuel. Not fire exactly. Not rage, just quiet fuel. A deep sense of something to prove, even if nobody was asking her to. By the time she reached college, the pattern hadn't changed. She made the team, barely. Walk on, no scholarship, no ceremony. She stood at the edge of the team photo, grinning like it didn't matter. But deep down she knew it did. She wasn't angry at the ones who got more praise. Some of them were brilliant, fast, strong, loud. People naturally followed them. They made noise, they made sparks, and that was fine. She didn't want to be them, she just wanted a shot. But that shot didn't come easily. For her first season, she barely played. When she did, it was during garbage time, the last few minutes of games that were already decided. Get in there, the coach would say, more as an afterthought than a choice. She did. She played her heart out, even when the crowd had already stopped watching. Once, in a mid-season game against a weaker team, she played 8 full minutes and made no mistakes. Good passes, solid defense, clean footwork. Nothing spectacular. Nothing that made the highlight reel. But it was enough for her coach to nod slightly from the bench. Not praise, just acknowledgement. She clung to that nod like it was a trophy. Other players might have quit by then, or transferred, or blamed the system. But she didn't. She showed up to early practices before anyone else, stayed after others left, watched game tape alone, taking notes in a notebook nobody ever read. She practiced things most players didn't bother with. Off-ball movement, timing screens, silent communication with teammates, the things that make a team function but never show up in stats. Some days, she wondered if it was worth it. When she scrolled through social media and saw younger players already signing pro deals or landing brand sponsorships, it hit her. She wasn't even close. She didn't have the numbers. She didn't have the image. And she definitely didn't have the buzz. She had sweat. She had discipline. She had a love for the game that didn't fade even when it was ignored. Still, love doesn't pay for gym time. Love doesn't put your name on the roster of the national team. Love doesn't get you remembered. Then came the day that changed everything, though it didn't feel like it at first. It was late in the season. A tough game against a top-ranked team. Everyone was nervous. The crowd was loud, the pressure high. And 5 minutes before the game, one of the starters pulled a hamstring during warm-ups. Panic hit the bench. Coaches scrambled. Plans shifted. She heard her name called. Not as a filler. Not for garbage time. Not because the game was already won or lost. She was starting. She barely had time to tie her shoes tighter before the whistle blew. What happened next wasn't magic. It wasn't one of those sports movie moments where everything suddenly clicks and the underdog becomes a star. No, it was something else. Something slower, deeper, more real. She played like she always did, smart, steady, focused. But this time the stakes were higher, and people were watching. She read plays before they happened. She rotated on defense with perfect timing. She made passes that turned into assists and assists that turned into rhythm. She didn't score much, but the team moved better when she was on the floor. By the end of the first half, the coach wasn't shouting anymore. He was just watching. The crowd, which hadn't even registered her name in the starting lineup, was starting to notice. "She's in every play," someone whispered. "Who is that girl?" They didn't know yet. Not really, but they were starting to feel it. The game ended in a loss, but it was a close one, much closer than anyone expected. And quietly in the post-game press conference, the head coach said something nobody expected. "Our bench stepped up today," he said. "Especially her. She held us together." It wasn't a headline. It didn't trend online, but it mattered, and it was just the beginning. She didn't wake up the next morning feeling like a star. There were no phone calls from agents, no big articles with her name in the headline, no sudden fame. The sun came up just like always, and life moved on. But something inside her had shifted. She had played. Not just filled in, but really played. She had been part of something that mattered, and people had noticed. Maybe not the whole world, but the team noticed. The coach noticed. And for the first time, she noticed herself in a different way. Still, she didn't let it go to her head. That wasn't her. She showed up to practice just like always, early and ready. She wasn't expecting to start again. She knew the injured player would be back soon and everything would probably return to normal, but it didn't. The coaching staff started looking at her differently. She could feel it in small ways. A nod during drills, a longer conversation after scrimmage, a voice calling her name first when forming groups. She still wasn't the star. She still didn't score a lot. But they were starting to trust her. A week later, in another big game, she was subbed in early. This time it wasn't because of an injury. It was a choice. That game wasn't perfect. She made a few mistakes, missed a screen, got caught out of position once, but she didn't fall apart. She bounced back each time. And more importantly, she helped calm the team down when things got shaky. The game slowed down when she was on the court, in a good way. The chaos shrank and rhythm returned. The team won that night. Afterward, her teammates started looking at her differently too. One of them gave her a high five and said, "You always make it easier out there." Another added, "You're like the glue, you know that?" She smiled, unsure how to respond. She wasn't used to compliments like that. She had gone so long being invisible it almost felt strange to be seen. Still, she didn't chase attention. She just kept working. She trained harder, sharper. She stayed up late reviewing footage, noticing things no one else did. Little weaknesses in the opposing team's defense. Patterns that most players missed. She took notes, wrote things down, and came to practice ready with quiet ideas. And slowly the coach started listening. He didn't change everything based on what she said, but he'd ask questions. He'd say, "What do you see?" during timeouts, and when she answered, he nodded like her words mattered. That meant more to her than any applause. She still wasn't getting media attention. Other players were featured in interviews and post-game highlights. Reporters still walked right past her. But something deeper was happening. She was becoming the player her teammates trusted when things got tough. One night, after a hard loss on the road, she sat on the bus with her headphones on, staring out the window. A teammate sat down next to her and said, "You know, we're better when you're in the game. Even when we lose, we don't fall apart with you on the floor." That stuck with her. She thought back to all the times people had said she was just average. Maybe she wasn't flashy. Maybe she didn't wow people in 10 seconds, but she was starting to realize she brought something else, something that didn't show up on stat sheets: control, focus, balance. She wasn't trying to be a star. She was trying to be solid. And maybe, just maybe, that was its own kind of special. But of course, it wasn't all smooth from there. In the next few weeks, she had a stretch of bad games. Her passes weren't as clean, her timing was off, and her confidence dipped. One game, she got subbed out after just 5 minutes. The coach didn't yell. He just said, "Tough day, shake it off." Still, the doubt came back. The voices, the ones that whispered maybe everyone had been right about her all along. Maybe that one good game had just been luck. She went home that night and sat in the quiet. No music, no screens, just silence. Then she did what she always did. She picked up her notebook and watched the game film. She rewound her mistakes, over and over, not to beat herself up and to understand. She saw where her feet were off, where her decisions were rushed, where she'd second-guessed herself. She took notes, rewound again, and kept going until the whole game made sense. The next practice, she showed up with more energy than usual. Her teammates noticed. One of them laughed and said, "Back from the dead?" She grinned. "Didn't die. Just had to fix some things," and she did. Over the next few games, her rhythm returned. She didn't try to be perfect. She just tried to be steady again, calm in the chaos. That's when the assistant coach pulled her aside and said something simple. "You've got a good head." "That's rare." She didn't say much in response, just nodded. But inside, that sentence stayed with her for days. She started taking on a quiet leadership role. Not the shouting, pump up the team kind, but the kind that pulled people together. The one who noticed when a teammate was frustrated and calmed them down. The one who whispered quick adjustments during a timeout. The one who walked up to a rookie and said, "Hey, don't overthink it, just trust your instincts." She became a connector. And people began to follow her without even realizing it. Still, the critics outside didn't see any of this. They still called her numbers average. Still talked about her as a solid backup. And that was fine. She'd stopped playing for them a long time ago. She was playing for the team now. For the game. For herself. Then came a tournament game that changed how everything felt. It was a high-stakes matchup. The kind of game that either makes a season or breaks it. The pressure was sky-high. Everyone was tense. The gym was packed. In the third quarter, the other team went on a huge scoring run. The crowd got loud. The momentum shifted hard. Players started panicking. Passes got sloppy. Shots rushed. The coach called a timeout and looked around, trying to calm everyone down. Then, without being asked, she spoke up. "We're fine," she said, firm but calm. "They're just speeding us up. Take a breath. Stick to what we do. Trust the next pass." It was just a few words. But it hit. The coach gave her a look, not surprised but proud. They went back out and the team responded. Slowly, the rhythm returned. The noise of the crowd didn't matter anymore. The fear faded. And by the end of the game, they had come back and won. She didn't hit the winning shot. She didn't get the MVP. But her teammates swarmed her after the buzzer. They knew. And that night, one of the local reporters finally wrote her name in bold for the first time. Quiet leader, silent engine, a performance that held everything together. She read the article once, then put her phone away. She didn't need the praise. She just needed the next game. She knew the spotlight wasn't her friend. It never had been. Every time she stepped into it, the pressure grew heavier. But this time, things felt different. The quiet confidence she'd been building was stronger than the fear. The team was invited to a national camp, a chance to show skills in front of scouts, coaches, and the media. Everyone wanted to make the final cut. For some, it was the first step toward a professional career. For others, a chance to prove they belonged. She was one of the last to be invited, not because she was the best player, but because her steady game had earned respect. The camp was intense. Long drills, tough scrimmages, endless evaluations. The noise was loud, the energy charged. On the first day, she watched others flash their skills. Fast breaks, high-flying moves, slick passes. Some of the players were dazzling, quick, confident, loud. She felt small among them, but she didn't panic. She did what she always did. She focused. She listened. She played with her head, not just her hands. Coaches noticed her calm in chaos. They saw how she read the game, how she made decisions that helped the team even if those moves didn't grab attention. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't loud. She was thoughtful. But camps like these are also about energy, excitement, and moments that jump out at you. The kind of moments she rarely created. As the camp went on, the competition tightened. Cuts were coming soon. Everyone felt it. On the final scrimmage day, she gave everything she had. Played every minute. Made solid passes. Defended hard. Stayed calm when the other team tried to shake her. But in the end, it wasn't enough. When the final roster was announced, her name wasn't there. She stood in the back with the others who didn't make it. Her heart heavy but her face steady. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She simply nodded. It was hard. More than she expected. The disappointment was a quiet weight settling in her chest. Outside, some players celebrated. Others hugged their families. Some cried tears of joy. She walked alone, the noise fading behind her. For a moment, It felt like all her work had been for nothing. The label average echoed in her mind louder than ever. Back home, the world outside the camp went on without pause. Social media filled with stories about the chosen few. Articles praising speed, flair, and dazzling talent. The things she didn't have. Friends asked how it felt. She gave the usual answer. It's part of the journey. But inside, the doubt crept in. Was she really good enough? Did she have what it takes? Had she been fooling herself all this time? She could have given up. Some days the thought was tempting. A life without constant pressure, without the constant grind. But she didn't. Instead, she decided to get better. Not to chase the spotlight. Not to please the critics, but for herself. Because the game was part of her, no matter what anyone else said, she started a new routine. Earlier mornings, longer sessions. Even when her body was tired, her mind stayed sharp. She found small ways to improve, her footwork, her timing, her communication. She watched videos of players she admired, not to copy, but to learn, to understand the small details that make a difference. Her teammates noticed the change. One day after practice, a captain pulled her aside. "You're different now," they said quietly. "Stronger." "More sure," she smiled but didn't say much. It was true. She was changing. The next season brought new challenges. New coaches, new teammates. At first it felt like starting over. The same quiet player trying to find her place, but she wasn't the same. Her game had a new edge. Not the flash of a highlight reel, but the strength of steady leadership. She earned more playing time. More trust. Still, the critics outside rarely changed their tune. Good but not great. Reliable but not exciting. She heard it all. Sometimes when games were on TV, when commentators dissected every move, it could be discouraging. But she reminded herself she wasn't playing for them. She was playing for the moments she loved. The smell of the gym, the sound of sneakers on the court, the heartbeat of a close game, and for the people who believed in her, the teammates who leaned on her, the coaches who valued her calm and most of all herself. One night, during a tough game, the crowd was restless. The team was down by 10 points and the tension was high. In the huddle, voices were raised. Frustration was spilling over. She stepped forward. "Calm down," she said. "We've been here before. Let's play our game." The words were simple but carried weight. The team listened. They came back slowly, point by point. And while they didn't win that night, the team left the court knowing something had shifted. They had a leader. Not the loudest, not the fastest, but the one who made them better. She still wasn't a legend. Not yet. But now people were starting to wonder if she might be. She never expected the season to get harder, but it did. The team faced tougher opponents, bigger crowds, and more pressure. Each game felt like a test, not just of skill but of heart. The critics were still watching. They still called her solid but unremarkable, but she was too focused to listen. She had learned to drown out the noise and trust herself. Early in the season, the team lost a few games they shouldn't have. The locker room was quiet and the coach's patience was thin. People wondered if this season would be another disappointment, but she refused to let it end that way. During practice, she stayed after everyone left, shooting free throws, running drills alone, fixing small mistakes no one else saw. Her teammates noticed. One by one, they began to join her. Soon, a small group stayed behind every day, pushing each other, learning from her quiet example. She wasn't loud about it. She didn't give speeches or demand attention. She just showed up and worked. The energy began to change. Slowly, the team grew stronger. They played smarter. They trusted each other more. The losses became fewer. In one important game against a rival team with a perfect record, she stepped onto the court with a quiet determination. The crowd was huge, the noise deafening. The game was tight from start to finish. Every point was a battle. Late in the fourth quarter, with the score tied, she found herself with the ball. No one was open. The clock was ticking down. Instead of forcing a shot, she passed to a teammate who made a quick move and scored. The crowd erupted. That assist wasn't on highlight reels or social media posts. It didn't make headlines, but it was the moment the team needed. They went on to win. After the game, reporters finally started to notice. She got asked questions. She gave humble answers, focusing on the team, not herself. Her teammates lifted her up. They celebrated her as one of their own, the quiet player who had become their heart. But she kept her feet on the ground. She knew this was just one step. not the finish line. The rest of the season was a roller coaster. Wins and losses, good plays and mistakes. Through it all, she stayed steady, the one who kept the team calm when things got tough. And then came the championship, the biggest game of the year, the one every player dreams about. The stadium was packed, the air thick with excitement and nerves. Her team faced the toughest opponent they had all season. The game was intense, physical, and fast. She played like never before. Not flashy, but smart. Every pass, every move had purpose. In the final minutes, with the score close, she stole the ball. She raced down the court and passed to a teammate who scored. The crowd roared. In those moments, it wasn't about being average anymore. It was about playing like a legend. When the final buzzer sounded, her team had won. The gym exploded with cheers. Teammates hugged, cried, and shouted. Reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. She stood there, breathless but calm. The critics who had called her average were silent. Her coach smiled and said, "You carried us today." And that was enough. She hadn't changed who she was. She hadn't become flashy or loud. She had become exactly what the team needed. A legend in her own quiet way. After the championship win, life didn't suddenly become easy. The spotlight was brighter and expectations grew. People wanted to see if she could do it again. If the quiet player who had surprised everyone could keep leading. She didn't worry about that. She focused on what she knew: hard work, steady effort, and trust in the team. The next season brought new challenges. Other teams studied her carefully, trying to figure out how to stop her. They played tougher defense. They tried to shut her down, but she adapted. She learned to read the game even better, to find openings where none seemed to exist. She passed more. She moved more. She became even more of the team's quiet engine. There were still critics who doubted her, people who said she was good but not great, who compared her to flashier players, but now, their words didn't bother her like before. She knew greatness wasn't always about the loudest moves or the biggest headlines. Sometimes, greatness was about showing up every day, ready to do the work no one sees. Greatness was about lifting others up, staying calm when everything felt like it was falling apart. Greatness was about playing like a legend, even when no one believed you could. She also began to understand that her story wasn't just about basketball. It was about life, about the times she felt invisible, and how she learned to shine anyway, about the quiet moments of doubt, and how she found strength inside them, about the people who said she was average, and how she turned that into her greatest fuel. She started talking to younger players, sharing what she'd learned, not just about the game, but about believing in yourself. She told them it was okay not to be the loudest or the fastest. That steady effort could make you just as powerful. That sometimes legends don't roar. They rise quietly. Her journey wasn't over. It never would be. There would always be more games, more critics, more doubts. But now she faced them differently, with a calm heart, a steady mind, and a spirit no one could shake. She wasn't just playing a game anymore. She was living her story. A story that showed the world how someone called average could play like a legend. And maybe that was the most legendary thing of all.